Welcome to today's Bulldog broadcast on the field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, Dan Dickow, bringing you conversations as well as some insight on the Gonzaga basketball program, what I've seen, what has been exciting, what is something to maybe look at in a different light. So with this podcast today, I just wanted to recap the non-conference, kind of set the table and preview what the WCC is going to look like. First off, the WCC is looking like a tremendous league this year. As of right now, there are 4 teams in the top 40 of Ken Palm. 4 teams, and I believe last I checked 2 days ago, it would have been the top 42 of the net, which is what the selections committee uses for the NCAA tournament. So as of now, 3, possibly 4 teams from the WCC could be dancing in March, which would be tremendous accomplishment for this league. I've said it for a number of years that this league is getting better. My broadcast partners on the local Gonzaga games always give me a hard time about it. They say I'm grandstanding for the league. I'm giving some of these other teams too much credit. I disagree, and I've said that for years, and I continue to say that. The reason I say that is the league has gotten better. Yeah, maybe the bottom has stayed poor, and the bottom has kind of recycled who's going to be at the bottom over the last few years. But the reason I think the league's gotten better is Gonzaga is now truly one of the 4 or 5 elite programs in the country. You could put them in any league, Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, SEC, and they're going to finish. They're going to compete for a title. So regardless, you take them away, you look at the rest of the league. The rest of the league, in particular, 2 through 5, 2 through 6, have really gotten better. And that's why I say the league has gotten better. But it's hard to see that if you're looking at it from kind of a Gonzaga slanted viewpoint that, hey, well, they're still beating teams by 25, 30. Well, yeah, they're beating everybody by 25, 30. They're a lot of times beating really good opponents from power conferences by 25 points when they get the chance. Gonzaga is just that good now. But before we really get into the WCC and kind of preview some of those teams, wanted to talk about the non-conference and recap it. You know, I think this was a really good non-conference. I would grade it probably a B plus. You know, they had their chances to be an A plus in the non-conference, but still, you can't complain with an 11-2 record with the schedule that they played. They played 5 teams in the top 25. And in those, they went 3-2. And those 2 losses, as we all know, Duke, 84-81, where I think the guard play, the physical, active hands and the guard play of Duke gave Gonzaga's guards a little bit of problems. They turn it over at times. They've cleaned that up as of late, leading into WCC play. But I think, you know, any young team, any young player has to kind of go through some learning curves, some bumps along the road, take coaching, understand the coaching and why it's being coached the way it is, and then learn from it and move on. And I think you've seen this Gonzaga young nucleus do that. I think you've seen it with Nolan Hickman. I think you've seen it with Hunter Salas. I think you're starting to see it a little bit with Ben Gregg in small sample sizes. Haven't really had a chance with Caden Perry because he's been injured. But you've also seen it with Chet Holmgren. And the difference with Holmgren is he's come in to Gonzaga with such enormous expectations. And those expectations of Holmgren being a game changer, a difference maker, that's the reason Gonzaga was ranked number 1 in the preseason. I mean, the fact that they lost 3 NBA guards in Kispert, Suggs, and Ayayi, how are you going to replace that? You got some young guards you're replacing it with. But you're replacing it really with the potential of Chet Holmgren. And that's, I believe, why Gonzaga was ranked number 1. Do I think they were worthy of it? It's hard to say. Am I excited about it as a former Gonzaga player, someone who covers the team, someone who pulls for them and roots for them when I'm not in a analyst type role? Absolutely. I think it's awesome to see. But I think it also shows you where the program is, that they are that well respected by coaches and media across the country that they were the number one ranked team going in, with the losses that they had, with the return of preseason player of the year, Drew Timme, and with the number one ranked recruit in the country, Chet Holmgren. Wouldn't be surprised, or I wasn't surprised. But the crazy thing is they've lost 2 games. They've never fallen out of the top 5. And, they're now looking to move into conference play, where we're really going to see the grind of teams that know Gonzaga really well, their strengths, their weaknesses, what they try to do, and what they want to try to take away from Gonzaga. So that's always a fun chess match to watch with coaches, because there's some really good coaches in the league. But to continue to recap the non-conference, great wins against Texas, where Drew Timme was unbelievable with 37 points. Great non-conference win against UCLA. Great non-conference win against Texas Tech. And then you kind of sprinkled in your typical home games against your 250 to 300-ish RPI Ken Palm type teams of Dixie State, Tarleton State, NAU, where going in you're going to win. Coach Few tinkers with the lineup occasionally, sees what buttons he can push with what guys to get response, to see who's growing, who's maturing in their game, who's able to take a scouting report and execute it. And I think you saw that with a number of guys throughout the course of non-conference. I think the biggest jump for me, well, there's 2 guys, really young guys, that have made enormous jumps as far as young guys. Nolan Hickman, I think, has been very good, especially as of late. And I think Hunter Salas has been very accepting of his role. I mean, it's hard to go from being a top 15 type player in high school, McDonald's All-American, to now a couple games you're getting 5-6 minutes. Other games you're getting 18 to 20. The ball isn't in his hands probably the way that he's used to, but his defense on the perimeter for a freshman is great. He's a pest. He's active. He gets in passing lanes. He's great in transition. He's figured out timing and opportunistic cuts to get himself some more chances. So I think those 2 have shown a lot of growth. The other guy that's shown a lot of growth to me is Anton Watson. And in saying that, I think the reason you're seeing this growth is because this is his 3rd year in the program. He 100% knows what to expect from Coach Few and the coaching staff. He knows his role. He understands his role. He's got the respect of his teammates, that he's going to go out there and perform his role. But then I think you also look at the fact that the last couple of years he's battled some injuries. And with those injuries, a lot of times you spend more time in the rehab, the training room, getting yourself ready to practice or play, as opposed to on the court working on your skills. And when you're on the court working on those skills, you're feeling good about it. You're attacking your workout. And the other thing, I think you see an overall comfort level. He knows who he is as a player, and he typically doesn't break out of that box. There's some people that maybe think, hey, I'd like him to shoot more threes. I like him to do this. That's not his game. His game is just kind of versatile, do many things, impact the stat sheet in many boxes, and then do so many things that don't show up on box scores. And that's deflections defensively. That's proper rotations. That's quick ball swings. He had a couple plays in the game the other night against University of North Alabama where Timme got doubled, ball got kicked out to him, and North Alabama pre-rotated defensively to take away the quick swing pass to the corner. Well, Watson reads it perfectly. Instead of being passive with it or maybe trying to force it to the quick swing guy, he just skips it to the guy on the opposite wing corner wide open for a 3. And those are the little things that don't show up in box scores, but that show up when you've had a guy in the program for 3 years and have been through practices, have been through film sessions, have been through shoot-arounds and preparing for different schemes against Gonzaga, whether it's, like I mentioned, a double team against the post, whether it's pick and roll coverage, where we're going to look, whether it's against, blitzing of pick and rolls, whether it's an occasional load up weak side defense against an ISO. You can't put a price tag on experience and value, and Anton Watson has a lot of that. So leading scorer through non-conference, not a surprise, Drew Timme, about 17 a game, a little bit less than what he had last year. But I think a lot of that is due to Gonzaga, again, has gotten off to a number of big leads where he hasn't played as many minutes as maybe he could have. There's been a couple games he's been in foul trouble. There's been a game or two where the defense has basically just said, "Hey, we're taking this away from you. You're not going to be the guy." Texas Tech games comes to mind. I think he had 5 points maybe. So he's had a couple monster games like the 37 against Texas, and then he's had a couple where he hasn't been impactful in the scoring column, but he's been impactful in how teams have had to prepare for Gonzaga, and in turn that makes Timme impactful. Leading rebounder and shot blocker, Chet Holmgren, almost 8.5 rebounds a game, and Holmgren top 5 in the country right now in blocks, nearly 3.5 a game. It was odd last night. UNA, he only got 1 shot block, but I would say he probably contested 6 or 7, where it really altered the opponent's release point. It altered their timing. You could see that he was impactful on that end of the floor. And then Andrew Nembhard, he's had some struggles as far as inconsistency of scoring it and shooting it. But at the end of the day, he's one of the best point guards in the country. He's got a great assist to turnover ratio. He averages about 4.5 assists, leads Gonzaga as well in nearly 2 steals a game on the defensive end. He's been a really good point guard. He's been through the battles. He's got experience that you want on your team at the guard position, in particular the lead guard position, when you get to the NCAA tournament.
Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just 1 playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gonzaga in Ken Palm is now ranked number 2. Baylor's number 1. And if you don't know Ken Palm, it's one of the foremost analytic sites as far as breaking down, your efficiencies, deficiencies. So they're number 2 in offense, number 2 overall, and they're 14th defensively, which was a little bit of a shock to me because they're forcing their opponents to about 40% field goal percentage. They're blocking an enormous amount of shots with Holmgren. But I think the main reason their defense is at 14 right now, and maybe not a little higher, is they don't force a lot of turnovers. But that's, I think, due to the fact that you've got such a good shot blocker behind you in Chet Holmgren. You can gamble, but be smart with when you gamble. You don't want to just give free reign, running through a passing lane, open up a catch and shoot opportunity if you don't get the steal. Make them score over a hand, and I think that's something that Gonzaga has done a pretty good job of throughout this year. You also look at points per game. Last year they averaged like 94, 95 a game at the college level, which is unheard of. This year, about 86 points per game, 52% from the field. Those are some numbers that, maybe as far as the points per game don't jump out at you because of what they did last year, but still 86 per game at the college level is amazing. What they did last year is just astronomical. And then to finish out looking at the non-conferences, unfortunately, which is something you're going to see a lot of, and it is right now with first game at WCC, is COVID cancellations or postponements. The UW game, granted UW is not very good this year in the Pac-12. It's a fun regional game. I don't want to call it a rivalry game because it's more of a regional game because UW has not been great over the last couple of years. But it's a game that the fans enjoy. That game was canceled due to COVID in the UW program. The USD game to start WCC play. Unfortunately, COVID issues right now in the USD program is making that game be postponed. Not sure if we're going to get that one rescheduled, but I'm sure the WCC commissioner and all the ADs and coaches in the league are going to do everything they can to get as full a game schedule for teams in the league as possible. But looking at the WCC, I think you have your clear-cut number one in Gonzaga. Don't need to go any more in depth on them. Then you look at the next group of three, really good. BYU, St. Mary's, USF, all three really good teams. I can see each of them getting into the NCAA tournament. I think they all have that resume that they should be in the NCAA tournament if the season were to end today. BYU different than maybe years past. They've got size, but not what they've had because they've had injuries. But Barcelo is a tremendous shooter. I think he's shooting at like 49% from three leading into conference. So he's definitely a player to keep your eye on. San Francisco, Jamari Bouye came back for a super senior year. He's been terrific for Todd Golden. You look at St. Mary's, the big fella Toss has really improved. He's playing well. But they've got a older group, Dukas, Fotu, Tommy Kuzi, who seems like he's been there forever. But the guy to keep an eye on to me is Augustas Marciulionis, a young guard from Lithuania. His father, Šarūnas Marciulionis, played in the NBA for a long time for the Warriors in particular. He's starting to really show some positive signs and aggressive attacking guard who really knows how to play. Then you kind of have that next group of WCC teams, LMU at 7-5, which will be Gonzaga's first game in league play. I don't want to say they've been a disappointment record-wise, but I think they definitely left one or two games on the table that Stan Johnson would like to have back. Santa Clara has been great. They're 10-5. I mean, they've kind of under the radar. Do I think they can crack into that top four? Probably not. But Herb Sendik's a great coach. Jalen Williams is leading the league in scoring right now at nearly 19 a game. So they've gotten off to a nice start. University of Portland with Shante Leggins in year one has been a surprise. Well, they've already, I believe, won more games or as many games as they won all of last year. I think they've only won one league game the last 2 years combined. So I would look for them to exceed that total. Pepperdine and Pacific kind of rounding out the league, have been a little bit of question marks. Pepperdine has to replace so much in Colby Ross and Kessler Edwards, point guard and a four-man who've done so much for that program over the last few years. They haven't shot it well consistently throughout this season. They've turned it over a lot. They're currently on a COVID pause, but Coach Romar is a really good coach. He'll figure out how to get them competitive and ready to go in WCC play. And then, Pacific, Leonard Perry takes over for Damon Stoudemire, who went back to the NBA as an assistant coach with the Boston Celtics. The jury's still out. They're a very balanced team, again, like they have been over the last couple of years with Damon Stoudemire. 3 players averaging double figures led by Jeremiah Bailey, who's a really good kind of versatile wing, but we'll be interested to see if they can compete the way they have over the last couple of years in WCC play, because Damon Stoudemire had them scratching out a couple top, 4th place finishes in the league, which was impressive based on, how good the league has been over the last few years. So, again, for the Field of 68 Media Network and the Bulldog broadcast, I'm your host, Dan Dickow. Check us out every week. We'll be back with a guest next week, looking to schedule a time with a couple former players, teammates of mine, as well as former Zags. They've expressed the interest of joining. We just haven't found a time. So again, for the Field of 68 Media Network, for the Bulldog broadcast, I'm Dan Dickow.